You're holding a device right now that governments around the world consider a national security risk. Not because it's dangerous to you, but because of where it came from. 80% of your iPhone is connected to China. That's what you've heard, right? But here's the question nobody asks. What does 80% actually mean? Is it 80% of the components? 80% of the value? 80% of the assembly? 80% of the supply chain? The answer is all of the above and none of the above. Let me explain. I'm going to show you exactly where your iPhone comes from. Not the marketing story, but the supply chain reality. We're going to break down every major component, trace it back to its origin, and understand why this matters. For national security, economic independence, and the future of global technology. Because the truth is far more complicated and far more interesting than any simple percentage. Let's start with what's actually true. Yes, approximately 80% of iPhones are assembled in China. This number comes from industry analysts tracking Apple's production capacity across its major contract manufacturers. But here's what that doesn't tell you. Assembly is only 3 to 5% of the device's total value. The design and software? That's 25 to 30%. Advanced components like chips and displays? That's 40 to 50%, made in Taiwan, Korea, and Japan. Mid-tier components? 15 to 20%. Here's where China dominates. Assembly? Putting it all together? Just 3 to 5%. So, when you hear 80% from China, what's really happening is that 80% of the final assembly occurs there. In March 2026, Apple announced that approximately 25% of iPhones are now manufactured in India. Sounds like progress, right? Except that's not the full story. Those iPhones assembled in India, they're using components imported from China. The batteries, many of the mechanical parts, the connectors, the speakers, they're still coming from Chinese suppliers. India has the assembly, but China still has the ecosystem, and that's the distinction most people miss. The real question is, where are the components manufactured and who controls the materials needed to make them? Let's answer that question, component by component. Let's start with the battery. Your iPhone battery is almost certainly made in China. I mean, there's a 95% or higher chance it came from a Chinese manufacturer. The major suppliers are ATL, Desay Battery, Sunwoda, and KTL, all Chinese companies with massive facilities in southern China. China doesn't just make the batteries, they control significant portions of the global supply chain for the raw materials. And that brings us to something most people have never heard of: rare earth elements. Without them, your iPhone doesn't work. Neodymium, praseodymium, lanthanum, these are in your speakers, your vibration motor, your screen, and your camera. What's rare is the processing capacity to refine them. China controls 85 to 90% of global rare earth processing and refining. The US imports 70% of its rare earths from China. In 2010, China restricted exports to Japan, causing a global crisis. Apple announced a $500 million deal with MP Materials to develop domestic production. But that's just starting. It will take years. Now, let's talk about something that isn't dominated by China: your screen. Most likely made by Samsung or LG in South Korea. Samsung and LG dominate high-end OLEDs. China's BOE tried to compete, but quality issues kept Samsung as the leader, so score 1 for non-China sourcing. Now, the brain of your iPhone. The A18 Pro chip, designed in California, but manufactured in Taiwan by TSMC. Taiwan is approximately 100 miles from mainland China. TSMC makes the vast majority of the world's most advanced chips. This is why semiconductors dominate geopolitical conversations. If a conflict erupts over Taiwan, world chip production stops, not slows down, stops. This is why the US CHIPS Act allocated $52 billion to bring manufacturing back. But these facilities won't be fully operational until 2025 to 2028. And then there are the hundreds of smaller components, connectors, cables, mechanical modules, overwhelmingly Chinese-made. Individually, each is a small percentage, but collectively, they add up to significant dependency. Why hasn't this changed faster? The answer is what experts call the gravity well effect. 84% of Apple's top suppliers have manufacturing facilities in China. In Shenzhen and Guangdong, there's an industrial cluster unlike anywhere else. Within 50 kilometers, you can find every single component category. Apple invested approximately $1 trillion here over 2 decades. They effectively built an education system for advanced manufacturing. Apple accidentally created its own competitor. China now dominates 57 of 64 critical technology categories. This is the red supply chain. The hard truth? You can't just copy-paste this model. The scale, the network, the training, they don't exist elsewhere yet. Is anything changing? Yes. But the timeline is measured in decades. Apple has spent $16 billion on diversification as of 2024. India's assembly capacity has grown to 25% today. It could reach 50% by 2028. Vietnam is ramping up AirPods and watches. Realistic projection for meaningful independence? We're looking at 2035 to 2040. And that's if everything goes right. This isn't unique to Apple. Samsung, Google's Pixel, every major manufacturer relies on this same Chinese concentrated network. So, why does all of this matter? 3 reasons: economic leverage, supply chain vulnerability, and strategic competition. First, economic leverage. China has shown it will use supply chain control as a geopolitical tool. That leverage is real. Second, strategic competition. The country that controls manufacturing controls economic power. China understood this decades ago. Your iPhone isn't just a phone, it's a map of global economic interdependence, strategic vulnerability, and the challenges of the future. Understanding this matters. These decisions will shape what your phone looks like in 2035. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. Everything we just discussed, rare earth dependencies, semiconductor concentration, manufacturing ecosystems, these are structural problems that require structural thinking. That's why I created the 7 Pillars of Freedom framework. It's a diagnostic tool that helps you evaluate any strategic issue across 7 essential conditions for independence and sovereignty. The framework includes a practical checklist you can use right now to assess technology dependencies, energy security, manufacturing capacity, any domain where independence matters. Download the complete framework guide free at 7pillars.com. Use the checklist, apply it to the issues you care about, and understand the structure of freedom, not just the symptoms of dependency. 7pillars.com. Get it now.